Hello and welcome to another edition of the Movie Kit podcast. I'm your host, Kit Bowen, aka the Movie Kit. We got a good show for you today. We're going to talk about the new action flick that's coming out this weekend called Monkey Man. And joining me in this conversation about action and whatnot is my good friend Joel Amos. Joel, how are you doing today?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. So yeah, so
Good.
this is there's some interesting background in this film, but it stars and is directed for the first time, his directorial debut. Dev Patel, who's someone I really like. I think he's fascinating to watch. Um, the premise is he plays an anonymous young man who unleashes a campaign of vengeance against the corrupt leaders who murdered his mother and continue to systematically victimize the poor and powerless. Um, it, I guess, has been dubbed the John Wick of Mumbai.
Mm.
It also has some great Indian actors in this, but the lone sort of non-Indian Sharlto Copley's in it. He's kind of has a little brief part of it, but it's pretty good. Other people that are notable are Pito Bash, um, Vinpin Sharma, who I thought was he was an interesting character. Uh, some of the baddie Sikandar Kher, and whatnot. So mostly an Indian cast, which is very apropos. So I'll let you start us off. What did you think of Monkey Man?
I really liked it.
Yeah.
I just had a blast. I look. I mean, it took a little bit to get going, little bit, but I was down with it from the get go because, like, I don't know, like you, like I could watch Dev Patel read the alphabet. I don't know what it is
I
about him.
know, right?
Like
I
he
feel the
just,
same way.
I mean, whether he's in like Best Exotic, Marigold
Marigold.
Hotel,
So yeah.
or anything else that he's done. He can do it all. And now that he's directing, I just some of those action sequences, like there are directors who make their debut who would dream of getting action sequences like he got in this
Yep.
film.
Yep.
I mean, I just got to start with that. I mean, yeah, it's like the John Wick of Mumbai. I mean, but it was, but it wasn't because it was so much deeper. It was so
Rich.
like just soaking and rich in that culture of India, which he is clearly a product of. And yeah, he grew up in England, but the world of India was never far behind, and he was often there a lot. So I think he just soaks up his culture, and I think it shows, and it's a unique love letter, but in a way, I feel like it is a love letter
Oh yeah.
to his family's homeland, and the music and the choreography of the fights was very almost Bollywoodish. I mean, it just was like action as ballet. I mean, it was just, and with the camera. I mean, the camera was like a character in the fight and where it was, and I just in the story, you couldn't really identify with the young man trying to avenge his mother, and there's some pretty bad guys in
Yeah.
this thing, and he just the way he puts those people down, and the way he is, and the way and you're doing all this, and occasionally, I don't know if you did this, but like you're lost in this film, you're lost in these fight sequences, you're lost in this story, and then about every like 20-30 minutes, you're like, oh yeah, the guy that's on the screen like all the time, he also directed this.
I know.
Like, and oh yeah, it's his first time. So yeah, kudos to you, Dev. I just think I thought it was a blast, and more importantly, I think it opens a door for him that I can't wait to go through.
Yes, I agree. Well, a little background here that I've read a little bit about this. Apparently, it was supposed to go direct to Netflix, but Jordan Peele, who we also love and
Yeah,
clearly has a good eye, he saw the film and thought it needed to be released theatrically, which she's absolutely correct on. I mean,
absolutely.
yeah, 100%. So he spearheaded that and helped Dev get it theatrically released. Also, I read that, he had, I guess it was they were filming and they were hit by COVID, so it took some time to get done. but he had budget cuts as well, and a lot of those shots were done with iPhones and GoPros.
Mhm.
But he also said that he's loved these kind of films, a ton, like Bruce Lee movies and all that, and he felt, that action films nowadays sometimes they can be pretty, we all are ready to suspend our disbelief for any action movie. I am, at least.
Mhm.
But he wanted to make one that was not only, fast paced and great to watch, but also realistic in a way. So I mean, he gets hurt.
Mhm.
He
Well,
really gets hurt in
he,
this.
he broke his right hand during the filming of
Yeah.
this,
Yeah. He
and he
broke his hand and
still,
2 toes, it said, or something, and some other stuff.
yeah,
So
and he never stopped.
nope.
Nope, he kept going.
I did enjoy it too. I really did. It took a little bit of time for me to really get into it, but by like the half of it, by the time he has that, where he finally decides to go for it and and attack these bad guys, and he kind of, doesn't quite, it's not as successful as he'd like, and then he ends up in this really interesting, that was part I thought was the coolest, this sort of temple, this haven for some of the poor, and like what you're saying, the poor and powerless people, they have sort of this haven. And the guy was that I mentioned when we started this, hold on, let me get the name again. Vipin Sharmar. He he's like a shaman type, or like the leader sort of these people. And he's so cool looking and different, and that's where the culture really came out for me. And there's some really amazing scenes with this guy playing the what they're probably not called bongos in India, but whatever they're called in India, he's this actor is like playing these, sort of dictating the scenes and some of the action that goes on, and I thought that was very cool. I was immersed. I was immersed, and I also felt, I mean, there is such a dichotomy between the rich and poor in India. It's just
Oh,
it's alarming,
it's
so
incredible.
alarming. And, he really highlights that in this. And it's, oh God, I mean, I just felt gross, and just all of the, dirt and grime and the conditions that these people live in, while, the rich and powerful have the big high rise, places to go, and apartments and clubs and all of that. So, you really, I mean, it's always a clear cut case of good and bad when in some of these movies, but you really feel it in this. So you really want him to get his due, you know?
Hmm.
You're like,
Oh yeah,
get your
yeah.
due, right?
That's why, like, it's not just the vengeance on the over his mother. I mean, it just seems like I mean, I don't know, almost Robin Hood-esque. Like
Yes.
he just, and I think this is something that's always been a passion of his. And I mean, it's what, how long ago now? 20 years?
Yeah.
No. Yeah. No.
That's in Slumdog.
Slumdog, yeah.
Is it
Um,
20 years?
maybe 15. I think it's 15. I think it's about, yeah, it's about 15. And like,
28. Yeah, 2008. 2000.
yeah. So it's 15, 16. It's, that was, I think, forefront of that movie was like the
Yeah.
disparity.
Yes.
And to see that in this film to me is not a surprise because he was definitely young, impressionable. Um, he had been brought up in England, but was back in India making this movie. And I think he was looking around and thinking, oh my goodness,
Yeah.
like this is kind of part I didn't see when I lived here as a kid. And um, yeah, it's just something else. And I just thought that that was a very important part that he didn't necessarily have to put in, but it ended up being very integral
Mm.
to the story and the emotional pull with the audience.
Yes.
And I think it was an extremely smart move. And I was so impressed. And I've loved, I don't know what it is, but I've loved Sharlto Copley for like years, years and years and years. And I don't know, maybe it's I like South Africans and his accent, and parts he's played and Ryan Johnson movies. But just even just to see him for a little bit, I was like, yeah, there you go, man. Do your thing. Um, it's just he's got
That
that
was
voice.
some that was some great moments too. So yeah, so
Oh,
I would say, like, I mean, I'm not going to give too much away, obviously, but the first half of the film is he has this vengeance in his heart, but he doesn't really have you know, the power behind him, basically, or the power within him to sort of
The
really
tool,
carry out
the tools, even really.
the tools. Yes, the tools. So he's you see him, he's an underground fighter, and he has a gorilla mask. And it
Mm,
cuts between these lovely, lovely moments with his mother growing up in the forest, I guess, and her telling him stories about, particularly one about a half man, half monkey who, dares to defy the gods kind of thing. And just that story obviously plays throughout the whole thing. Um, so yeah, so he's an underground fighter, and he kind of is the one who's supposed to come in and basically get beaten to a pulp, just so that the other bigger fighters can look good, kind of thing. So that first half, and then he's trying to get into to where he can get to these people he wants to seek his revenge on, including like the chief of police and all of that. So he has to make money, and he gets involved. He starts working for this high class, I guess, hotel slash club place. I don't know, Queenie, whatever. I can't remember. I wasn't quite sure what it was. Um, and uh, so there's this. And Sharlto plays the owner of the underground fighting club. And so then when he finally does get the tools, like we just said, and he comes back to the ring, I thought that was just hilarious. Our whole audience just burst out laughing that first fight. I just, yeah, that was because everyone's like shocked that he's now finally strong. I don't know. There was just, like I said, there was a little bit of a slowness to me at the first half of it, but then I was just so on board and just waiting for him to to do good, or to make good, or to get what he deserved. Um, or
yeah,
seek the vengeance he wanted to seek. So yeah, you're right. Dev's a talent. And why wouldn't
I
he
tell
be?
you,
He's been doing this for a while.
he has, and there's nothing he can't do, and he's just, it's like I said in Best Exotic, like, he's just adorable, like in that
I know.
character.
I
I
just
mean, it's
find
just
him
like,
very attractive.
you know, um, and it's just, and he's just come so far, and he's really worked his craft, and he's really earned this big time. And I think, like you said, Jordan Peele saw something and said, no, 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 no.
No.
This needs to make an impact. And judging by how packed the theater was last night, and I checked a couple different screenings, and they were all equally as crowded. And
Yeah.
I was just thinking, like, people are really hungry for something like this. And I read a review that I completely agree with, that like Hollywood needs to wake up, and that, maybe they are, but like, this is an original story.
Yes.
And look at the pre-ticket sales and tell me that you can't read this and think, okay, what other stories are we going to tell that we haven't told before?
Right.
Because, yeah, such and such two and such four will, make money, but like, look, the enthusiasm. I mean, they talk about this in politics, that like, it's all about the enthusiasm. Like, you can be right, you can be on the side of right, but if your base isn't excited, they're not going to turn out. And
Yeah.
and the thing is, the same thing with movies. It's like,
Yeah.
you have, I mean, I've said this before, but I think movies are national pastime. I think baseball is still whatever or whatever, but I think everybody loves the movies. And so, I think if you get movies like this coming for lots of different people,
Right.
all kinds of different genres and feels that make you leave the theater and think, I can't wait to go back.
Right.
Um, I think people will respond, and I really see it. I saw it last night, and I just was like, dude, it just seems so obvious. But,
Yeah. I
I
mean,
don't
and
know.
the story actually, it's original, and it's culturally, you know, uh, um rich for that time, but it's also a story we recognize. It's a story we root
Mm,
for. It's the underdog story. Always, 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 always is going to be good. But if it's an underdog story that doesn't quite work, then you say, oh, this is cliche, I've seen this before. But this time, yeah, we know the story, but we don't. And the seeing what we see in this that's what makes it so fresh and so unique. And like I said, I really think Dev really wanted to make it more realistic. Like this guy gets hurt, and um but the action still is just great. It's just tremendous. So I was really impressed. And it's got an 85% on Rotten Tomatoes. So clearly we are on the same wavelength, unlike Godzilla and Kong, who we
Right.
loved. And our podcast for that is doing pretty well. And I got a few comments, but most of them are also saying how much fun they had. So, we know what we're talking about. We know.
This is a different kind of fun, you
Yes.
know.
Yeah.
That was big and epic, and this is a much more small, intimate story, but yet it's still just as big. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
The stakes. I would almost say the stakes were higher here, in a way, because they're so personal.
And
Uh,
yeah, we really get invested. I mean,
yes.
honestly, if a director can put you in a place that you haven't been before, give you a story that, yeah, maybe you've seen before, but you're invested in these characters and what they do. And it's a very, it can be very clear cut who the bad guys are. Then, then I'm all in, I'm all
Mhm.
in. So yeah, I
And
would give, go ahead.
okay. No, I was just gonna say I got to give the creators out there in Hollywood a really big thumbs up, because I think when it comes to the making of masks, they've really been killing themselves lately. Like the baby mask and Happy Birthday to Me, these masks that are coming up from them are very unique, and I think that would be very hard. And I think if they hit a wall for a while, but like the monkey mask, oh my God, I love it. I just loved it. Like, in the trailer when he puts it on and the red background and the music's playing with it, do 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 do, and I'm just like, oh,
Yeah,
I'm so there. I mean, they had me at the mat.
I think
Um,
mask.
yeah.
And
So
it's
anyway,
gross too. It's like all sweaty. I mean, that was the other thing.
mhm,
You just feel like, ugh. And that part when he falls into the water, oh my God.
mhm.
That was just like, ugh. So yeah, he doesn't shy away from the grit and the grime
Oh,
and the just, yeah, sweat. But he still
right.
looks good, man. All sweaty and whatnot. Yeah. I do. I find him very attractive.
He's a good-looking fellow.
He is. He is. So yeah, I'd give this a solid 4.5. Like I said,
Oh, yeah.
it took a little bit of time for me to really, to catch on, to not catch on. What's the word I'm thinking? Latch on. That's the
Mhm.
word. Took a little bit of time for me to latch on, but then it was just fantastic. So 4.5 for me. How about you?
Oh yeah, easy 4.5.
Okay.
And I think that beginning is something that, as a director progresses, I think that's an easy fix. That's
Yeah.
a common thing that happens with first-time directors. Like, once they get going, they're like, okay, here we go. But like starting a story and gripping it is probably very difficult.
Yeah.
Um, the other thing, I mean, this whole time I've been like, they should pick Dan Stevens to play Vaughn. They should pick Dan Stevens to play Vaughn. And then they kind of announced it's Aaron Taylor Johnson, although he hasn't accepted. They haven't technically offered. But
Right.
I was watching this movie and I was like, there's all this pressure to cast a person of color. And I'm like, whose name I've never heard is Dev Patel.
Up the cell.
And I mean, he's Indian, but he's British. And
Do it.
he he's younger 30s, he's early 30s. I'm like, after watching this movie, I'm like, he would kill.
Oh, he would be fantastic.
Fantastic. He has the chops as an actor. He can
Yep.
do the action, and he looks great in a suit.
Super, super good looking, super
Give
charismatic. Yeah, no, he could totally do it.
him a shave, and boom, there you go.
Don't even let him shave. Let him have a little bit of a beard. I mean, hey,
Yeah. Or
we
he could
could leave
start with the
that bond.
beard. He could start with the beard, and then when he becomes 007, he shaves it, and there's a
There you
reveal, and you're like, whoa, now he's Bond.
go.
Anyway, if we ran the world,
If we ran Bond's world, I swear to God. I mean, here we are.
I know. That's just my 2 cents. I
No, it's
never
good.
thought of him, but he'd be perfect.
He is. Yeah, he would be perfect. Yeah. Anyway, so that's good. All right. Well, Joel, thanks again for joining us. Good
Absolutely.
good times here in the movies. So you've got Monkey Man this weekend. If you haven't seen Godzilla yet and really want to have a popcorn fun, then yeah, definitely go see that. But certainly a good, really great start for Dev Patel's directorial career. So we're hoping that he'll keep that going. You thanks again to Joel, and you can read all of Joel's reviews on his website, themoviemensch.com. And the next week, we've got another kind of, well, like I told you, I'm a little nervous about watching it. Civil War, which, kind of gives us a little bit of a warning on how our world our country might end up. I don't think it will, but it's still a little nerve-wracking in my opinion. So hopefully you'll have
That's
a, go ahead, what?
yeah, I want to see it. And I think what sets this one apart, even though I haven't seen it, I've heard great things from our friends who've seen it. But like this is A24.
Yeah,
So this isn't just, I mean, this is a movie that's looking to make a point.
right.
So I that just amps it up for me. Like I can't wait to see it.
And it's
Even though
got a great cast.
yeah.
And
So
and it's also directed by Alex Garland, who's also
mhm,
a really good director, a writer, director. So, and he's the one
there you
who's
have it.
having a little trouble having some warnings here. Anyways, yeah. Hopefully we'll get a chance to review that next week. So join us then. But everyone, yeah, take care for this weekend and we'll talk to you guys real soon. Bye-bye.
All right.